What's up, guys? Welcome back. I'm joined again by my good friend Gabriel, here to talk everything Chicago Bears. It is a bad point in the season. We have been eliminated from NFL playoff contention, so that's clearly not the topic today. But Greg, how you feeling, my man?
I'm feeling good. Been up early though. We had some snow last night, and then the plow guy came. God, I'm gonna say 5 o'clock, and it's like right outside my window, the driveway, and that woke me up. So I've been up since then.
Oh, we got up early. A dog saying hi. Good morning to the dog as well.
Somebody's trying to walk by the house or something. He doesn't allow that to happen.
We have a lot going on, though. We're a week away from Christmas. We actually have NFL games live tomorrow on Saturday as well. We have college football playoffs starting tonight, going all day tomorrow as well. And then a big week of NFL action as well. We're taking on the Detroit Lions. And look, we've been bad. We've lost 8 straight games. But one thing we've done for the last 2 years is play the Detroit Lions really tough.
For some reason, they match up really good against the Lions, and the Lions are a dome team. And you get a dome team coming out playing the elements, and they're not the same team. And on top of that, they lost their power rusher, Montgomery. They got 2 more guys. They got now 15 defensive players on IR. Ooh. They had 2 more go on this week from their game last weekend. And so, I mean, they just got a ton of guys banged up and out. So I think the Bears are going to win this game. They need to win. Caleb needs to win a game. And because they always play Detroit good, the game's at home, I just got a feeling it's going to be close and they're going to pull it out.
Hey, I'd love to see it. We definitely need a win. 8 straight losses. Thomas Brown is 0-2 so far. Caleb is on a skid of losing here, but overall, I think Caleb's development has been on par with about what I expected. One thing that I think is getting overblown right now is we were on national TV last week. It was a big game, and they showed Caleb Williams not hitting receivers over the middle of the field on a couple of those sacks.
I think that he's been, I don't want to say regressed because that's not the right, but he's been getting rushed so badly that I think he's hurrying things, that he's not going through the progression the way he should. And it shows because there's guys that are clearly open. The good news is you see that on film. So when you do your film study of the game, you stop hey, look, there's your guy. And when you see it and then you plant it in your brain that it's there, you got to look for it the next time.
Yep, 100%. And all rookies go through things like that. I preached all offseason about it. Rookie QBs are going to struggle. One of the toughest things to watch, I think, has been Jaden Daniels having success and Caleb Williams not having the same success. He has been putting up numbers. I think he has gotten better, but the pass protection has been the biggest issue. The interior of our line is a huge issue, and I think he is seeing ghosts a little bit. That's something he has to get better at, but I am looking for him to have a better game this weekend, and if we could beat the Lions, I think that would make a lot of Bears fans happy.
Yeah, you can play spoiler a little bit and maybe knock them out of first place, and they got to be a wild card. Who knows? But, the Bills played them last week and exposed them a little bit. Obviously, Detroit's offense put up a lot of points, but they were playing catch up. And I don't think the Bills were ever in trouble. And I'm a Bills fan, so I try to catch all their games. But the good part about that was when you're thinking about, okay, who's going to be the next coach? In my opinion, Brady outcoached Johnson.
I was going to bring up Joe Brady in a little bit. I was going to ask you about him because I know you are a Buffalo fan. And Joe Brady's a guy I've liked since he was back in college at LSU with Joe Burrow. I've always liked Joe Brady. I actually was high on him for the offensive coordinator job here. I don't know if it was this year or back.
Well, this year it wasn't available because he was the OC in Buffalo.
Before he went to Buffalo, I wanted him to come in and work with Justin Fields at one point. I've always been high on Brady. Now he is an interesting name to look out for. You probably know him better than I do. What are your thoughts on him as a head coach?
Well, I like the way he calls games, but the big thing is, and he has a blimp on his resume, and that's when he went from LSU to Carolina as the offensive coordinator. But, you know, they didn't have much to work with there. Rule was the head coach. Rule's not a NFL head coach. He's a college head coach. And it just, you know, it didn't work out good. So then he had to reset himself, goes to Buffalo as the quarterback coach, and then pushed up to the OC job. I like him. I just don't know. He's still a young guy. I just don't know if he's ready. You know, you can say that about all these guys, Swifty. It's who is, you know, he can come in and he can run a good offense.
Yep.
That's a given. He's already done it. But can he run a whole team? And that's the key. And stand up in front of the whole team and get that team to play hard. And, you know, on a continual basis, can he be a leader of an entire team, not just one side of the football? Can he put together a good staff? You're only as good, a head coach is only as good as the staff you put together. So, and that's the same thing with Johnson.
Yep, exactly
or any of the other names you're going to bring up. I mean, you know, both of the coordinators from Detroit, you got to figure are going to be on the list to be interviewed. I mean, Aaron Glenn, I think, has actually done a better job than Johnson. And I'm not trying to downplay Johnson. I know how good that offense is. But he's got some players to which to do that. You know, his skill people are really good. But at the same time, he's turned Goff's game around. McVay wanted to get rid of Goff, did get rid of him, and just didn't think he had enough in him to take him where they wanted to go. So he just passed on. They traded him to Detroit, and Goff's a totally different quarterback in Detroit playing under Johnson. So that's the positive.
Yeah, that's one point that you can't really overlook there is Ben Johnson has been able to get more out of Jared Goff than McVay was able to. He does have more talent around him on offense, especially the O-line. But that's my same question with Ben Johnson and all of the young offensive coordinator candidates, Joe Brady, Cliff Kingsbury, Bobby Slowick. I'd say all of those, I have the same question you do. I do not know how they will perform as leaders of men and as the head coach.
First of all, I hate that term, leaders of men.
Yeah, I know, but that's the term that's going around.
Right I know, now. But that's I mean, it's a given that they're men. They're all out of college, and I just think the term got overused, and so you get 100%. Sick of hearing it. You know, can they lead or not?
Can they lead on offense and defense? That's right. The biggest thing.
Can they control a whole team? Can they control the room?
And micromanage. You got to do a lot of other things other than just running the offense. But as far as Walt said it here too, sometimes you got to take a leap of faith. And when I'm looking at the head coach this offseason, that's what I want to do. And Devin Kelly, he kind of made a point here. We've been taking that leap of faith for the past 20 years. I do not agree with that because we've played it safe and made stupid coaching hires a lot of times the last 20 years. We've had some great ones. Lovie Smith, really the only one I consider great. But is John Fox taking a leap of faith? No.
Well, let's go back to that one because, I know what happened. Ernie Accorsi was the consultant, and, Ernie, myself, Fox, Sean Payton, we were all together in New York at the same time. Ernie was the GM. Payton was the offensive coordinator. Fox was the defensive coordinator. Jim Fossil was the head coach. So, I've worked with those guys for a long time. I knew back then what Ernie thought of John Fox. And so go back to when that was happening. And Fox's name wasn't even involved in the equation at first. And then all of a sudden, he gets divorced. It was a mutual thing between him and Elway at Denver. And he gets Denver to release him from his contract. I was in Buffalo visiting my kids then, and I made a call because I was doing work for the Score. I said, "That's your next head coach for the Bills." He goes, "How do you know that?" I said, "Because Ernie Accorsi's running the search, and I know what Ernie Accorsi thinks of John Fox."
And I also thought Fox was a great person for where our locker room was and the culture here after Mark Trestman. That's a guy.
That part, you're true. What I think happened, and I admit I'm throwing a dart at the wall there because I think the world of John, and he's a good friend.
I did too.
And he's a really good guy, but he had a big health scare when he was in Denver. I mean, almost to the point where he could have died. And, he dropped a lot of weight. Now, John could party now because I've known John going back to when he was the DB coach at the University of Pittsburgh. That goes way back into the 80s. And he, he partied probably a little bit too much. He developed a heart problem. And, when that happened, I just don't know. It was his third head coaching job, how much he was really into it, for lack of a better way. To me, it was almost like when you're looking at it after, I think, we worked hard at it for the first year or so. And then after that kind of backed off. And I think he had some problems with Pace and Pace had problems with Fox. And what happened was,
well, if you don't tell him the quarterback you're drafting, that can cause some stuff right there. Yeah,
absolutely. And what happened was, they're never going to admit to it, but Pace was a rookie GM. There's not a doubt in my mind. They said, "This is the guy you're hiring. You're brand new at the job. You need a guy with experience. He can help bring you along, yada, yada, yada." And, I'm sure that John tried to get his way a little bit, and they butted heads. I've never sat down with them and talked to them about it to find that out because it means nothing now. Yeah. So, but I just think that, if the Bears had gotten John Fox when he went to Denver at the beginning, you got a hell of a coach now.
Yeah.
Because that guy can coach. But, when they got him, just the wrong time in his career. And I think, like I said, after a year and a half, 2 years, he just said, screw it. And, just let it play out. And he wasn't into it like he should have been. Again, I'm guessing at that. But I've known the man for a long, long time. And I just, to me, that's just the way it played out. Because I know, he had problems. He was going back early in his career. He was at the Raiders, and he was the defensive coordinator. And he quit on Al Davis. Al Davis kept telling him how to run the defense. And John was, F you, this is the way we're running the defense. And he walked out.
Hey, you need guys like that, though. So my question to you is, here's what I'm thinking when it comes to head coach. Not talking the specific names, but just as far as what kind of coach do you want? And there's the two differences here would be an established guy who's coached before and maybe it didn't work out. Those are like the Mike Vrabel, Brian Flores, etc. Or do you want?
I'm going to say right now, Flores isn't going to get a head coach.
Well, yeah, no, I'm just saying, just a guy who's coached before. Okay. Even Cliff Kingsbury, you can throw him in that pool as well.
Right.
Someone who's been a head coach before and is experienced, because that's what a lot of fans want. To me, someone else pointed out every one of the NFC North coaches are all first-time head coaches, and that's what I want. I know we've taken some chances and missed. Matt Nagy being the most recent one, him and Matt Eberflus, both misses. You tried on both sides of the ball on offense and defense, but we need to get the head coach right. To me, you don't turn this franchise around until you do that. When you look at teams like the Packers and Steelers, they are winning. Their coaches are getting the most out of their talent. And that's kind of the bridge right now with our fan base, is we're not getting the wins. So fans are hating on the talent on this roster. Until we get a coach that can get the most out of this talent, it's hard to really show these guys how talented this roster can be and how much young talent we have. So we have to hit on head coach. Do you think we have a better chance of doing that with an established guy who didn't work out at his first job or for some reason? Or do you want to take another shot with a younger guy?
Now, each one is different. And that's why you go through the interview process and you get people involved. Belichick failed miserably in his first job. And I don't think he was ready because I had worked with him before that. He was in New York. And what he tried to do when he went to Cleveland was he tried to be Parcells, and he couldn't be Parcells. There's only one. And it didn't work. And then he goes back, and who does he go back to work for? He goes back to work with Parcells again. But then by the time he got to New England and he figured out how he wants to do it, he put together his own persona, and he became Bill Belichick, not a wannabe Bill Parcells. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, part of that, his gruffness with the media, that comes from Parcells.
Yeah.
But Bill takes it to a whole different level than Parcells could be very, very gracious with the media. But at the same time, if you hit him with a stupid question, he'll just rip you apart.
He's done it. I've seen it.
I've seen it too. I've seen it, and I remember one time we had a rookie mini camp. And so we were inside Giant Stadium, and the media weren't allowed to talk to the rookies except at a designated time. So we got the old tunnel at Giant Stadium, and the players are walking out, and there's some guys from the media standing in the first row, leaning over, trying to talk to some players walking into the tunnel, and Parcells just ripped the hell out of them.
I love it. So what are your thoughts? My guy, the biggest guy in that category who could stand out, kind of comes from the Belichick tree there. Vrabel was okay in his first run, but he made the playoffs multiple times with Tennessee, but they didn't live up to expectations. They never won anything big there. And now he's looking for another head coaching job. He fits that bill of...
Yeah, he's not he played for Belichick, but he never coached with him.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so I like Vrabel. If there's anybody that you're going to take with previous experience, I'm trying to lean more in that direction myself.
Mm-hmm.
It still depends on, okay, who's going to be a staff. There's three key hires. There's defensive coordinator, there's offensive coordinator, and in his case, the offensive coordinator is the most important. And that really four key hires: the offensive line coach, offense and defensive line coach. You got to get those right. And he hit a home run with his first two OC hires in Tennessee. He has LaFleur the first time, and he loses LaFleur after 1 year. And that very rarely happens if you lose a guy after 1 year.
True. Yep.
But then he goes out and gets Arthur Smith, and Smith did a good job. I mean, Smith turned that job into a head coaching job for himself. So I don't even remember who he had after Smith, to tell you the truth. And I didn't even look. But he's got the persona. He's got the personality. He can be hard on his players. He's got some old school to him. I like the fact that he played in the league. So he knows what it's about. He's been through it before himself from the player standpoint. But at the same time, he's real likable. Now, I don't think that the guy who hired him, and I like him, he's a good guy. I don't think he was a real good general manager, and that's John Robinson.
Yep.
And the players that John got, Vrabel, weren't the best. So he wasn't always, for lack of a better term, playing with a full deck. He never had a freaking quarterback.
True.
And now they drafted a quarterback, but the guy, Mariota didn't turn out. And then, like John turned around and trades away his best receiver to Philly, and just things like that ended up costing him his job. So I think he deserves another chance. I think he's going to get a job coming up. There's a lot of rumors that he might be the favorite for this job. I don't believe any of the rumors. You hear people say that he's the front runner. Who the hell knows who the front runner is?
That's what I was just saying, something along those lines, because someone else just said in the chat, made a comment about the comments. Here it is. Creighton said the people that the media says he would hire as an offensive coordinator are McDaniels. What's McDaniels' first name? The guy who was with
Josh McDaniels and Tommy Rees.
But there's just speculation. Those are guys he's worked with in the past. Nobody knows who he would hire as offensive coordinator.
Here's the thing. He's never worked with McDaniels in a coaching environment.
See?
And the same thing, because I brought up a name. I said, here's the guy that I would hire. And there is a connection, but it's the same as his connection with McDaniels. Is Brian Daboll.
Brian Daboll,
if Daboll gets canned, that guy's a hell of an offensive coordinator. And he's the guy who developed Josh Allen.
100%.
I mean, he had Josh Allen his rookie year, and Josh's first 2 years. Go look at the numbers; they were horrid.
He was awful. Yeah.
And then in his third year, I've never seen anything like it. He goes his first year, he's 54% completion. His second year, he goes up to 58.5. He jumps better than 10 points in his third year. And most of that third year, he was over 70%.
Yep.
I mean, it was like, whoa, what happened? And that was all Daboll.
Okay. Yeah. Brian Daboll did a lot of good stuff there. We do have real quick injury update from the Bears today. This just came out. Looks like Ryan Bates is not going to play. Jalen Johnson has an illness, but Gervon Dexter and Tevin Jenkins both both came back to practice today in a limited fashion. They're both questionable. So is Braxton Jones, who is back from his concussion and got in 2 full practices. I expect Braxton to be back this week, but it'd also be nice to have Tevin Jenkins and what was the other one? Gervon Dexter, Big Dex, back out there on the field as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not. I think Tevin's going to play before Gervon because Gervon had a knee.
Yep.
It's going to help Caleb because I like what Amagaji can be, but when when you come from where he came from, an FCS level school, and you don't have training camp, you can't learn on
reps.
You can't learn on the fly because there is no time in the regular season. Once the camp's over, you got 13 padded practices the rest of the year. That's all you're allowed to do. And you don't have time to do one-on-ones with these guys all the time and teach this guy how to pass block the way he's supposed to. That's all for camp. And right now, like he's played like 1.5 games so far, and that's his preseason. He's going to make mistakes, and we've seen the mistakes. But there have been plays when he's been pretty good too.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I made a big video on it this week. I think Braxton Jones is underrated. I know he hasn't been good enough, but he has been starting level around the NFL. I'm not a huge fan of PFF, but they are one of the metrics that grade people, and they have him rated as the 21st best tackle in football. He's only given up 6 sacks this year. Out of the 58 our offensive line is given up, but everyone wants to throw Braxton off a bus. I get it, but imagine this, okay? This is one of the things I talked about. Braxton Jones leaves next year. Let's say we cut him. Now, he's not going to because we have him for 1 more year. I'm just speaking hypothetically. If Braxton Jones were to leave next year, another team would sign him, and I would expect him to go into the season at least competing to be a starter, and he probably would be a starter at left tackle next year. So the question then comes, how do we replace Braxton Jones and get better? Because that's what everyone wants to do. They want to just throw Braxton away and bring in our left tackle. But here's the issue.
You can draft a guy, obviously, but you're going to go through the growing pains. You're going to go through the growing pains of a rookie. But don't forget when Braxton played every snap as a rookie. And, he had some struggles. His struggles were with, handling the bull rush. He just didn't have he doesn't have enough ass to him to do that. And I think that's one of the reasons why they drafted Amagaji, because he's got that length, he's got the athleticism, he's got the ass. Now, if you look at him, and like when he gave up the sack the other day, and every time you put on the end zone, I look at it, I can see exactly what he's doing wrong. He's number one, he's not setting wide enough, so it's easy to beat him to the outside. You know, his pass set is off, and then his hands are dropped. He's got to have his hands up here. And if you don't, and if he's got a head down here and then has to bring them up, and why the offensive line coach hasn't fixed that, so it's second nature to him, that's beyond me, because that's simple with the hands. But if you're carrying your hands low, a defensive lineman is going to take advantage of that in a split second.
100%. And I mean, Braxton, one thing he's shown is potential. His first 2 years, he played pretty well. My biggest knock on Braxton is he hasn't really improved or taken his game to another level this season.
I agree with you. You would think that by his third year, he's going to take that jump, because he has gotten stronger. He knew what his limitations were, or what his weaknesses. I won't say limitations, I'll say weaknesses. He had to get stronger in the lower body. He's done that. He anchors a lot better than he used to.
He does.
But there's other parts of his game that you thought, well, he's going to be on top of it. You know, he should be, if I don't believe in PFF like you. If they say he's 21, he should be 12.
If they say he's 21, he should be 12. Well,
what I'm saying is that like, based on the fact, the number of starts he's had, how much he's played, and as athletic as he is, he should be a top 12 tackle, not a top 25 tackle.
Yeah, 100%. Let me see. I wanted to look at something. The Lions, I mean, I wanted to go back to the Brian Daboll thing, because a couple people are talking about it. Got another comment here that says he wouldn't say that Josh Allen's progression was on Daboll. Otherwise, Daniel Jones would still be playing. This is where I disagree with, because to me, Daniel Jones is not a good football player. He
inherited Daniel Jones.
Yeah. To me, I think Brian Daboll, and I get it, a lot of people, he didn't have success in New York, but he is a guy who was the number one head coaching candidate in all of the NFL, one of the hottest play callers, and he never had a quarterback in New York. He was stuck with Daniel Jones. Give him Caleb Williams. I'm into that idea. He's a guy, I'll talk about it more in the offseason, but he's
got to get fired first. So,
if that happened, that's what I'm saying. I don't even believe it would happen, but if they fire him, they're stupid, because I think he's a good head coach. But yeah, if that was even an option, I would probably be looking into it.
He's a homeboy for me too. He's from Buffalo and coached in Buffalo. You don't always get that opportunity. Yeah. He went to the interesting thing is he went to St. Francis High School, and his classmates were Polian's kid, Tom Telesco, who is the general manager at the Raiders now.
Yep.
And then what the hell's the guy's name? I can't think of his name. He was the GM in Jacksonville for a long time. Now he's in Philly. Is it?
Not Con. Who was the GM? They
all went to school together at St. Francis, and it was Bill Polian who brought them all into the league.
It was David Caldwell, right?
Yeah,
David Caldwell. Yep.
Polian's oldest son, Telesco. They all were in class together at St. Francis, which is an all-boys school actually right next to Orchard Park. It's in Hamburg, right in the town right next to Orchard Park where the Bills Stadium is.
Yep, 100%. And then something else I want to talk about here. What are your thoughts on Ryan Poles? Because he's been the hot topic this week. Everyone, I heard I'm talking everyone. The last week I've heard CHGO, all of the other Chicago platforms, ESPN, Sports Illustrated, NFL Network, they've all came out and had articles or talks about firing our general manager.
If he was going to be fired, he would have been fired.
Thank you. I mean, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I think he's done a great job. Yes, he has not done enough for the offensive line, but this is the year
he's made some mistakes. There's no question he's made mistakes, and I'll say it right now. Now, we can go back to that article that Weeder wrote.
Yeah,
and Weeder wrote about, and he's saying that Flus was going to get fired in Indianapolis. Well, the people in Indianapolis I know, and I know some pretty high ups in Indianapolis really well, said no truth to that at all.
Yep. And this is what I hate about our media.
Now let me finish this. Here's the thing. Who was the guy who was the consultant? Bill Polian. Where'd he come from? Indianapolis. Where's he live? Indianapolis. Don't you think he'd know that?
100%. That's something I was going to bring up too. Is Bill Polian was the guy leading our search. He has all those connections to Indianapolis, but our media. This is a guy, Dan Weeder, out there. He goes out and writes an article and says,
somebody may have told him that. I'm just telling you it's not true.
Yeah, I'm saying, I agree. Someone might have told him that, but there's no validity to it. Who knows who told him that? But half of our fan base and thousands of people that are Bears fans just take things like these as facts. And they're like, well, Poles is stupid. He hired a guy that was going to get fired.
And there is so much bullshit. Like Harbaugh wanted the Bears job. No, he didn't.
Yeah.
Okay,
I didn't think so. I didn't think he wanted anything to do with Ryan Poles, and I didn't think he wanted to be in this weather either.
Well, number one, it didn't have anything to do with Ryan Poles. He's got his own hand-picked GM in LA.
Exactly.
Who worked for his brother.
Yep.
Okay. So it was, and on top of that, his wife's from California. Every job that he has been in California except for the Michigan job. As a coach, he coached at the University of San Diego. Then he coached at Stanford. Then he coaches the 49ers.
Yeah, that's what I thought. He wanted West Coast too. I thought it was all along.
He wants to be on the West Coast. Now, who'd want to live in California is beyond me, but that's another story.
I was born there.
Were you?
Yeah, I was born in LA. Yep, LA.
Oh, I mean, the state itself, but it's right now the state. I mean, the beauty of the state is second to none.
I mean, I've been in Illinois since I was 2, so it wasn't long lived or anything. Yeah,
that state is so fucked up right now.
Yep.
And we think we got high. I don't know what the prices are like in Ohio where you are, but we think we got high prices and high taxes here. Go out to California, and they're double what we got.
So staying on with Ryan Poles, though, do you think, because the big thing right now is people saying he shouldn't get to hire the head coach. I don't think Kevin Warren should be involved. And
I agree with you. Kevin Warren's not a football person.
Yep. He's a business guy.
Does Kevin Warren does he got to put his stamp on it? Yeah, he's the president of the club.
Mm-hmm.
But first of all, contractually, I think we talked about this the last time we did a show 2 weeks ago. It's in Ryan's contract that he picks the coach.
Okay.
Yeah. That is a standard term in the GM's contract. 2 standard terms you got. You control the 53-man roster, and you hire and fire the coach. Okay. So, when you go back and go back to that presser, and I think we talked about this 2 weeks ago too, and Warren is kind of hemming and hawing, and then he finally said, but it's Ryan's decision. Because he knows what the contract says.
He does, yeah.
He can't violate the contract.
He cannot. So I think Ryan Poles has to get this coach right, and I think he has to have full control of that decision. I know Kevin Warren's involved, but I think people overreact to how much he's going to be involved. Oh, I think Greg, we lost Greg for just. Oh wait, no, there he goes. You're back. You're back.
Am I here? Okay.
Yeah.
We one of the beat writers I had a conversation with, and really there's a lot of sense he said to this. He goes, Ted knew what he didn't know, and wouldn't overstep his.
Oh, you cut out a little bit again there. Basically, we were talking Ryan Poles here, guys.
Are we good?
I don't know. I think you're coming back. We're basically talking Ryan Poles and what we think about Ryan Poles.
I'm going to plug this one thing in, and maybe that'll help it.
Okay.
Instead of being Wi-Fi, we'll get the hard line in here. I don't know if that'll help it, but
usually it does. All right, go back, Greg. Sorry.
Okay.
We just
so
for a second.
He said that, and I'm not going to say who the beat writer was, but he goes, Ted knew what he didn't know and didn't try to, pretend he knew what he didn't know. He said, I'm not so sure if that's the case with Kevin Warren. And there's other people around the league who've said the exact same thing to me about that. And there's some people that think that his ambition is to be the next commissioner.
I've heard that too. I heard he was. That's his angle, or that's what people think is. I mean,
he's the ultimate politician. He's gonna tell you what you want to hear or what you think you want to hear.
And I have to address this one. This is the dumbest comment I hear from Bears fans right now is this: Ryan Poles didn't draft a single Pro Bowler. First off, I just got to say this loud and proud. Anyone who doesn't think Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, Darnell Wright, Jervon Dexter, Kyler Gordon, and Jaquan Brisker have Pro Bowl potential is a flat-out idiot. I'm telling you, you're an idiot.
They all do, but I don't know if Jaquan Brisker is going to play another play.
People say that, yeah. If someone says that, you shouldn't listen to them talk football, period. Because how many Pro Bowlers, if you go look at Pro Bowlers,
it's his third year. That
Pro
means
Bowlers in their first or second year. It's so
very,
stupid.
very few.
Like
we drafted a dozen.
And on top of
that,
it
took a while.
What happens with Pro Bowlers? You get Pro Bowlers
when you win
football games. If this team would have won five or six of these close games, we'd have Pro Bowlers. Pro Bowl is a popularity contest from teams that win. Anyone who uses that argument against Ryan Poles one more time is an idiot.
Was Tommy Harris in the Pro Bowl his first or second year?
He was in
his second year. Was Briggs? No. Was Tillman? No. Was Matt Forte? No. Devin Hester? Yes. But Devin Hester was unique, and that's why he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
We had a bunch of Henry Melton. Henry Melton was in like his third or probably his fourth year before he got to the Pro Bowl.
Yep.
It takes a while. Tillman was in the league a while before he got to the Pro Bowl.
He was, but I mean,
they got to develop.
And that's the thing. The reason we don't have Pro Bowlers, and we really do because Jalen Johnson's on the roster and Poles re-signed him, is because those were and what year did it take Jalen Johnson to make the Pro Bowl? Year 4, by the way, guys.
That's right.
Year 4. You don't say players aren't Pro Bowlers in their first season. Some of these guys haven't even played a whole year. Ryan Poles just picked Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze in the first round of this draft. You can go back. If you look at every draft we've had since 1986, there's only one draft where we've gotten 2 players that I think had that much potential. And it was Jerry Angelo, Landon, Brian Urlacher, and Mike Brown in the same draft.
We didn't draft those guys.
Oh, that was the year before him. Okay. But either way, that was my favorite draft as far as the first 2 picks early in a draft. That was insane. And we haven't had that much potential from 2 players since then, in my opinion. We haven't had 2 top 10 picks since for 70 some or 50 years, was it? It was before 80. It was before the 84 year. They took Jimbo Covert and one more player in the top 10. It's the only time we've ever had 2 top 10 picks. And the year's not even over. And people are like, he doesn't have any Pro Bowlers. It's dumb to me. It's just so dumb.
I haven't heard that one, and I'd laugh at it because you got to wait. I mean, I use it now all the time. We had a dozen, but it took a long time.
I mean, Ryan Pace was fired without any Pro Bowlers, and then the ones became a Pro Bowler after he was fired.
That's right. I think he's had more than one.
But our biggest issue, especially since after Jerry Angelo left, has been busts in the first round because we've just had far too many horrible first-round picks and years where we don't even have a first-round pick because they've been traded away. Traded away to move up and draft Justin Fields, traded away for Khalil Mack, et cetera, going back. We even traded away a bunch for Jay Cutler.
Didn't have first-round picks my last 2 drafts because of the Cutler trade.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you trade for Jay Cutler, you don't have picks. And that's how our franchise has been.
True story. I'm sitting there. I mean, that we trade for Cutler like 3 weeks before, and I knew it was going to happen, but it was being talked about, but it didn't get finalized until it was like 3:00 on a Friday afternoon or Thursday. Yeah, I think it was a Friday, and I had Harry Hiestand was the offensive line coach. We had a first-round pick. We were taking an offensive lineman that draft. And I had Harry out working out the top offensive linemen in the draft, first and second round guys. That day, the day that we made the trade for Cutler, Harry was at the University of Oklahoma working out Phil Lodeholt. Remember him? He played for the Vikings.
Phil Lodeholt, the right tackle. I think he went to Vikings, right? Yeah.
Went to the Vikings in the second round. But Harry was out working him out that day.
He was a big guy too.
Yeah, and then I had to bring Harry back. Call Harry. I said, "Harry, come on home. We don't have any picks anymore."
Harry, come on home, man. We don't have any picks. We're not getting any offensive linemen, but we have a quarterback. I will say that day goes down as one of the most exciting for me in my life as far as a Bears fan. Me and my buddies, we were through the roof when that trade went down. I was so happy to land Jay Cutler, and he's still to this day the best quarterback I've ever seen in a Bears uniform. Caleb, I think, will surpass him, but Jay has easily been the best quarterback we've had in my life. And
yeah, but there's some issues with Jay.
There was a lot of issues, but that tells you how bad we've been at quarterback.
No, but he would undermine people and.
Something there with his attitude, and there was always too much talk about his body language, his attitude. He just didn't have the right, was it mindset to be a leader? Maybe is that how you would call it?
I don't think he was a leader. I mean, he had the traits to be a leader if he wanted to be.
Yeah,
but if anything, he was a negative leader.
And one of the stories that I heard, I think it was Brandon Marshall told it, who had invited him to a wedding, and Cutler didn't even show up, didn't call him, didn't text him. Just he was supposed to be in the wedding and didn't show up. Yeah, he was supposed to be in the wedding and didn't show up. Like that's crazy to me. So that kind of tells you a bit about his personality.
Jay did what Jay wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. But he was clearly incredibly talented.
No, I will never take that away from him. But we had a guy working here. I'm not going to say who he was, but very close to the players in the job he had.
Okay.
And he couldn't stand Cutler.
I hated that he never developed into that guy because he had all the talent in the world. And that's just kind of, that's Bears bad luck for us. Even when we get the guys with talent, usually it's something with personality. Brandon Marshall was the same way. He had all the talent to be probably the best receiver in football, and his thing. He
was one of the best.
Well, he was. I mean, yeah.
He was good for 2 to 3 years at any given city, and then he had to move on. And
at any point in time,
the same thing's going to happen. Stephon Diggs is the same way.
Yep.
You wear out your welcome. You become, you're a diva. You become a pain in the ass, and. What happened? Buffalo's actually better off without Stephon Diggs than they are with him.
And they never learn, the diva receivers in the NFL, that no matter how good you are, once you start becoming a distraction, teams will move on from you. Look at Antonio Brown, and Chad Johnson still had some stuff left in the tank. There's other receivers that have had talent and been able to play, but once you're a distraction, teams just move on from you. And Odell Beckham is the latest one of those. Its injuries have also held him back, but no one wants to take a chance on a guy or really give him that many opportunities.
They're cancers in the locker room.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about our receiver trio. All three of these guys are humble. They're good workers. I know DJ had some talk this year about his body language, but DJ's always been a go out there, blue collar type guy, put in work. Keenan Allen, same thing. And Rome's not out here complaining. He's not getting the targets. His dad is complaining. I don't know if you saw that. Did you see the comments from Rome Odunze's dad on Twitter?
Oh, yeah. You know, dads will be dads.
Yeah. I mean, I do think it might be true. I mean, yes, if he would have been drafted by any other team in the NFC North, they're all playoff teams. Of course, he would have probably put up better numbers, but maybe not. Because if you look at a team like the Vikings, who have Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, and TJ
he'd be in the same situation.
He wouldn't be getting a lot of targets there either.
That's right. Yeah. He'd be the exact same. And the same thing if he went to Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit they don't pass as much, but even when they do, they have their tight end, Sam Laporta. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown, and they give targets to David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs and hand them the ball. So it's not
if he went to Green Bay, he'd probably be their number 2 this year.
Yeah, he could be their number 1 as far as talent is concerned. But Jaden Reed is, he gets a lot of action. You never know who's going to be the Packers' number 1 on any given day. It could be Romeo Doubs. It could be Christian Watson. It could be Jaden Reed. And that's what I hate about the Packers. But I don't want to talk Packers. I hate them.
No, we can talk about them in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we'll end the season. If we can end the season beating them, I think that'll make all of us very happy, honestly.
Speaking of that, I feel bad for Thomas Brown. I think he was in a situation where he could have done something, and it just I'm not putting any of the blame on Thomas Brown. I just think the team was in such a bad place when he took over that he was already in a hole, and it was almost impossible to dig himself out of that hole.
And we did it so late in the season that he didn't have an opportunity to build any confidence. He didn't have these opportunities against the bad teams like the Patriot, the winnable games that we had beforehand that Eberflus blew. If we had fired Eberflus early, I think Thomas Brown might have been able to get some momentum going there. But instead, here we are. And
I still think they're going to beat Detroit this week.
Yeah. Do you think there's any chance Thomas Brown is retained as the head coach?
No. Now, I thought, 2 weeks ago, that he was to use a golf term, he was the leader in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Based on the reaction the players had to him, but it hasn't carried over to a game. And, you got to be able to sell this person to your fan base. And there's only one way he can turn that around, and that's win the last 3. And against 3 teams that are playoff teams.
Yeah. If he does that, do you think he stays the head coach? Just off that win in the last
I would say he's got a 50-50.
Yep. I would say, well, if he wins these last 3, I would give him 50-50. Yeah.
But he's the guy who's disappointed me, though, and I worked with him and I really like him, is Eric Washington.
Yeah.
The defense has not played as good.
I thought our defense would be better. Our defense definitely regressed.
He has been more aggressive as far as sending people and stuff, but the coverages, the coverages,
soft.
They've gone downhill in the coverage.
And so that'll bring me to my next point. That's actually a good segue, because one of the guys who got beat really badly last week is a player I've liked and a guy who I still think has a ton of potential, but he had a horrible game. Tremaine Edmonds. He's from Buffalo. What are your thoughts on Tremaine? Because the fan base hates him right now.
Yeah. He's never going to, he's built and he's athletic like Brian. He's never going to be Brian. He's not that physical presence.
Yeah.
He is, the strong part of his game is coverage.
He just wasn't good in coverage the last couple of weeks, and that's what worries me.
Yeah. And no, I get it. But, because of his athleticism, his length, the size and his length, you drop him back into zone and he could shut down the middle, because you got to throw over him. There's just things he can do just by his sheer size. But he hasn't been the presence that I thought he would be. Edwards should be making the money that he's making, because Edwards makes freaking plays every week.
TJ Edwards has been a really good value. I do like Tremaine Edmonds a lot. People forget he was 2 years ago, he was the best coverage linebacker in the NFL at just 24 years old. He's only 26 now. I don't know what we need to do to fix him, if it's the coverages he's in, if it's the lack of a pass rush. I think most of it is probably our lack of a pass rush.
Actually, he's not a bad pass rusher himself.
Yeah, he's a good pass rusher. Yeah, but our pass rush while he's in coverage isn't getting
the pass rush the last 2 weeks. They're not finishing.
Improved.
They're not fit. They're getting a shitload of pressures. They're just not finishing.
They can't bring they can get around the quarterback, but they can't bring him down.
Right.
And that's tough. Yeah. That's been a Bears problem for a long time. And part of that, to me, is the interior pressure. We're obviously missing Gervon Dexter and Andrew Billings. But
and Billings is a big point. I'm going to say one guy, I brought it up when I was with Aldo the other day.
Chris Williams.
Because that guy Ford.
Oh, Ford had a crazy game.
What the fuck?
I was live and had to look up. I had to looking up his stuff mid game because I was like, this guy is
number one. I mean, he'd been on the practice squad at Green Bay. Mm-hmm. He's a big body who can move. He's a 330-pound guy, but he's an athletic 330. So I started watching him. He makes a play, and I go, "Who's that?" I had to look up who it was. Because I didn't even realize he was active because he'd only came to the team on like Wednesday
it was a couple days before the game. Yeah.
And I did not had this walkthroughs. So he has 4 tackles, he has some quarterback pressures, and he's not a pass rusher, but they had to use him as a pass rusher a couple times. But the one thing he did, and they haven't had since Billings went out, was get a push in the run game and clog up that middle.
100%. And Zach Pickens has been a little disappointing. I will say Chris Williams has shown some flashes as well, but Ford, he looked like a monster on a couple snaps. He reminded me.
He got off the ball good, and he created a push either against the guard or the center. I mean, he would knock him back like 2 yards and get into the back like right away. And like,
yeah, he was blowing up plays.
Yeah, and when you do that, that changes the inside run game for the offense.
Mm-hmm. You blow up their lanes, you cause them to have to adjust, and then the whole play's out of whack. And that's how you get tackles for losses. That's how you make big plays on defense.
So I'm looking forward to, now he's got another week
to practice.
His snaps will probably go up. I don't know how many snaps he had last week, but he had 4 tackles and a limited amount of snaps. I bet you he probably played close to 40 snaps this week.
If he plays as well as he did, he's a guy who could stick around, honestly. If he can play like that again, he's a guy who could be a rotational piece moving forward for sure.
No question. And they haven't had a guy like that who was that physical inside presence since they lost Billings.
Yep. And Billings will be back next year, but yeah, his loss has been missed. It's definitely hurt our defense. We've talked about it for the last couple of years that he's one of the most underrated players on our defense. But
so freaking strong.
Now that he's gone, yeah, it hurts. Walt came through with Ford played 25 snaps last week. Not bad for his first game.
No, and I guarantee it'll be up this week. It'll be 35-40 this week because he just played too good. He made things happen.
He flashed even in broadcast, but you watch on tape as well. He definitely flashed and had a great game. Surprised the heck out of me, but if we can see it again, I'll get even more excited.
If you can penetrate and disrupt, which is exactly what he did, then he's doing the job he's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. They didn't credit him with the quarterback pressure. I would have to kind of question that one. He definitely was back there a couple of times. I'd have to give him.
He's not a pass rusher. I mean, he's like he's a 5'2" guy. What he is he's a rotational one technique, but he's a big freaking guy.
Yeah, and he shows, especially when you can come in when you're a defensive lineman that's rotating in off the bench. You want to be able to explode and have energy and show something in those snaps so you're on the field. And he did that. Almost every play he was out there.
No, I was impressed. Like I said, who's this guy?
Yeah.
And, I literally had who's 64? And I see, the new guy they got this week. I said, shit. And then I started watching him. And
every snap he was out there, he looked good.
I know, like I say, penetrate and disrupt, because he would knock people back. I don't think he ever gave ground on a block.
I didn't see it. I will. There is one more thing. We do have college football playoffs starting tonight. A ton of people, Ryan.
8 o'clock your time, 7 our time. How about this? Because I like Notre Dame.
Yep.
Latest the game's ever been played in the calendar year at Notre Dame, and the latest the game is kicked off.
Oh, and they're playing in-state rivals, Indiana. It's going to be a fun game tonight.
Yeah, as far as I know, I don't know when the last time I have. I've been involved in this since '81, and they have never played Indiana in that time. So that's 42 years.
I was having it covered here. Let me see.
They played Purdue all the time. They used to play Purdue every year.
Time they ever played, if I believe it right. So they've only played one time in the last 65 years.
Yeah, that's all. Because I know they hadn't done it in the last 43.
60. Is there anything you're most excited to see this weekend with the other 3 games? Or
no, I like that they're playing. The higher seed, they're playing at home. They're not where the next round they're playing. It's in bowl game,
neutral sites. Yeah, they'll be.
Yeah, it's in a bowl game. Like the winner of this game plays Georgia in it's either the Sugar Bowl or the Cotton Bowl,
and they're going to be without Carson Beck too. So
yes.
Winner of this one has an opportunity tonight. So
yeah, no question about it. But I think the best seeding is the SMU Penn State game, because they play Boise. Yeah. And I think when Boise's up at this level, they're going to be a little bit out of their league.
I'm excited to see Boise play, though, because I get it. A lot of people look at those teams and they're like, Boise doesn't deserve a bye. I think Boise's better than Arizona State, first off. But the thing about Boise, they have Ashton Jenney, to me, is the best player in the nation.
No question.
All year long, everyone has known he's the guy, and they still can't stop him. So
you can say the same thing about Hunter too, though.
Well, yeah, but they didn't.
And Hunter plays 100 snaps a game.
Yeah, but they lost. They're not here in the playoffs. So
no, but they're in a bowl game. He won't play in the bowl game.
I would have liked to see them in the playoffs and Miami. I wanted Miami to make it too, but they didn't get the call.
I think they still got to make changes. I do not like the fact that the conference winners automatically get a bye.
Yeah, I think they'll work on that.
That's got to change. It's got who's the best football team. Mm-hmm. Give the 4 best teams.
The 4 best should get the bye.
You can win a conference and like Georgia. I mean, Georgia had a bunch of losses,
and they're not in a good position. I mean, there's a couple teams with good positions here. I mean, Ohio State, when they win, they're taking on it's Oregon or Georgia. Who do they play in the second round if they win?
Georgia plays the winner of tonight's game.
Okay, yeah. So they're playing so Oregon is the number 1 team, and they might have to play Ohio State in their first game. That's tough, because Ohio State that's a monster squad right there. They had a loss. They failed against Michigan, but that's a monster team with a lot of NFL talent.
Yep.
But I'm excited for it. We got Bears Lions this weekend, starting tonight, college football playoffs. I'm going to be watching football all weekend. Did you have any final thoughts or anything else you want to say?
We got a lot of NFL football, because we got NFL football Saturday, Sunday, Monday. They're off Tuesday, then Wednesday and Thursday.
Next week. Yeah, true. Yeah. So we got
two games on Christmas, and the Bears play on Thursday night. So really, there's only 2 days
next week.
2 days. That one. And yeah, because I think there's NFL games next Saturday too.
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's crazy. It's going to be fun. We got a lot of football coming up, guys. It's a good time of year, even though the Bears are out of it. We still have some stuff to hope for and a lot of things to be positive about. Greg, as always, man, it's an honor having you on here. I love talking football with you, my guy.
Yes, sir. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we're out of here, guys. Hit the like button. I appreciate everybody who watches, and bear down.